Okay, you might want to try this example on your own and then come back here to check your work. Also, please take note that this problem have been changed, so make the necessary changes in your notes. All right, so check your answers. So for this one, your A is -6, B is 4, C is -pi, and D is equal to -4. And from here, we can get the period, which is pi over 2. Phase shift is -pi over 4, which is -2 pi over 8 as well. The maximum value is -4 plus the absolute value of -6. Absolute value of -6 is +6. So -4 plus 6 would be equal to 2. The minimum would be -4 minus +6 is -10. Our midline is y equals -4. And so we graph that midline right here. Our increment is period over 4. So pi over 2 divided by 4 will give you pi over 8. And since your A is negative, the pattern starts with a minimum. Okay, so negative pi over 4, that's your phase shift, which is also, as I was saying, negative 2 pi over 8 as well. And then the minimum value is -10. So this is your starting point right here, -2 pi over 8, -10. Okay, and then we go the pattern minimum, intercept, maximum, intercept, and so on. Your increment is by pi over 8. So I start with -2 pi over 8, -pi over 8, 0, pi over 8, and so on. So just keep on adding pi over 8 to get the next value in the scale. And then we graph the cosine function, and then we draw the asymptotes on where you have the intercepts, where the graph crosses the midline. Okay, we draw asymptotes, vertical asymptotes through those points, and that will be the guide when you draw your secant function. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This one is cosecant. So basically, we do the same thing. Our A is equal to -3. Our B is equal to 4. There's no C. And our D is also equal to 0. So from here, our period is equal to 2 pi over B, which is 2 pi over 4 or pi over 2. Our phase shift, there's no phase shift because C is equal to 0. Um, our maximum would be at 0 plus 0 plus 3, which is 3. And our minimum is at 0 minus 3, which is -3. And our midline is y equals 0, which is basically the x-axis. Okay? Our increment here is equal to period over 4, which is pi over 8. And your starting point, we start at, and by the way, this is secant, so that means we are graphing the sine. And for sine, we start with intercept. And since you have a negative here, it's intercept minimum, intercept maximum, intercept. So we start at the phase shift 0, okay, and the intercept is at 0 as well. So starting point is at 0, 0. There's no phase shift, there's no vertical shift. The increment is pi over 8. So let's go ahead and map this out. We've got pi over 8, 2 pi over 8, 3 pi over 8, 4 pi over 8, 5 pi over 8, 6 pi over 8. Actually, we are only asked to find 1 period, and 1 period is equal to pi over 2. So we can stop right here because this is already equal to pi. Yeah, equal to pi. Um, all right. And then your maximum is at 3. Here is 3. Minimum is at negative 3. Okay. Your midline basically is the x-axis. We don't even have to draw that, but let's do it. Okay, so that's the midline. Oops, sorry. This would be our midline. Okay, that's more like it, which is the x-axis. And then let's start graphing. Okay, starting point is at 0, 0, right there. And then we go intercept minimum. Okay, so we, instead of going up, we go down, and then intercept maximum, intercept minimum, intercept maximum, intercept. So that's more than this is more than 1 period, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. So we go this way. Okay, and then let's go ahead and draw our asymptotes. So our asymptotes is wherever the graph crosses the midline, in this case, crosses the x-axis. So that's one asymptote. Here is a second one. Here is a third one, a fourth one, and let's complete it for the fifth one. Okay, let me just fix that one up. Okay, that's better. And then we draw our graph for our cosecant. So the graph for cosecant goes this way. Okay. So we take that point, that maximum point, and then we go up here, take this minimum point, and then we go this way. So it's the purple line. That is the graph of a purple curve. That's the graph of our cosecant. Okay. Let's look at the next one. Okay. So this time, we would want to find the equation for the graph of each function. So in this particular case, let us do both the secant and the cosecant. All right. So if we would graph the secant or the sine or cosine curve here, what we do is we take this minimum and maximum points, right? Um, so in this particular case, your maximum, let's see, our maximum is at 1 and our minimum is at negative 1, okay? Which follows that um okay, let's just go ahead and graph that. Your midline would be at the x-intercept. So these are basically the intercepts of your function, right? And the graph of the function looks like this. So we want to identify the graph of this function right here. Okay. So we said maximum is at 1, minimum is at negative 1. So we want to find our A, B, C, and D. Okay. Um, let's do A, B, and D because the C is different for sine and cosine. So our A here is equal to 1, right? 1 plus negative 1. No, 1 plus 1 minus negative 1. That's equal to 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the amplitude is equal to 1. Let's see what our period is, or our d would be equal to 0. Okay, 1 plus negative 1 divided by 2. Our period here, we can go from this maximum to this maximum. Oh, wait. We are given that this is negative pi over 2. So we can go from this intercept, which is negative pi over 2, to this intercept, which is pi over 2. So pi over 2 minus negative pi over 2, that's equal to pi. So period here is pi, which means that our b, remember b is equal to 2 pi over period. So 2 pi over pi, our b is equal to 2. Okay? And what else? So now all that remains is finding the value of c. Is there any phase shift here? So basically, if you would notice, the graph passes through the origin. Okay, maximum is 1, minimum is negative 1. So this is basically the graph of a sine function, right? So let's just get the graph of the sine function. So what do we have here? Um, y is equal to a, which is 1. And there's no phase shift, right? Because it started at the intercept. So a, which is 1, sine bx, so 2x, again, c is equal to 0, and d is equal to 0. So simplifying this, we get y is equal to sine 2x. But then remember, this is not the graph of sine we're looking for. What is the reciprocal of sine? It's cosecant. So basically, this is the graph of y equals cosecant 2x. Okay, try the following. And then come back here to check your answer. Okay, so check your answers. Your maximum value is 2. Minimum value is negative 2, which means that the amplitude is 2. There is no vertical shift. There is no phase shift. Your period is 2 pi. So from zero, 1 maximum to the next maximum, that's equal to 2 pi. So your b is equal to 1. Now, why is there no phase shift? Because notice that you can use this as your starting point, right? Which is basically 0 maximum, the starting point for your cosine function. So this is a cosine graph. Okay, so applying the formula for cosine, this is basically the blue graph is y equals 2 cosine x. But then we're not looking for the graph of cosine, we're looking for the graph of sine, of secant, the reciprocal of cosine. So this is the graph of y equals 2 secant x.